Kahiaka.
Aloha kako, and buongiorno from Italy.
Buongiorno
Everyone?
to you. Are you there by yourself?
Oh, yes, I forgot to say I am here, but Ko is right outside. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm here alone.
Is that her snoring?
What's that?
Joining us also in the chambers, we have Councilmember Tamara Paulton, and her little puppy is sound asleep right now.
Buongiorno and aloha kakayaka kako from me and my minor canine.
Welcome. Also joining us online, we have Ms. Ellen McKinley, Ms. Megan Moniz, Ms. Leigh Deneen, and Ms. Jean Pokipala. Members, on today's agenda, we have one item, Bill 111, 2024, establishing procedures for the removal and storage of personal property in public places and a right to shelter. If there are no objections, member, I'd like to take testimony after receiving opening comments.
No objections, Chair.
Thank you, members. Okay, let's just jump right in. Members, Bill 111, 2024's purpose is to provide the procedures to compassionately relocate people when necessary, including offering access to services and storage of personal property. Members, Bill 111 has been posted today for no legislative action. We're meeting on Bill 111 today due to the upcoming deadline imposed by Rule 15A of the Rules of the Council. And for the public, Rule 15A says in part, if a bill or resolution is not scheduled within 90 days of referral to a standing committee, it will automatically be referred to the committee chaired by the introducing council member. And Councilmember Johnson has requested that it remain in the WASSP committee as he is the vice chair of this committee. Therefore, I did schedule this item today to keep this bill in the WASSP committee and allow additional time for ongoing discussions with community members and with the administration concerning Bill 111. Members, several testifiers at our December 2nd meeting last year requested more time to meet with people who will be directly impacted by Bill 111 and to review the Department of Management's proposed amendments. Some testifiers also raised concern about whether the department's proposed amendments align with the Sonia Davis versus Richard T. Bisson decision. To address some of these concerns, I've asked the Department of Corporation Counsel to provide a presentation during today's meeting to clarify the county's legal obligations regarding the storage of personal property in public spaces, places, including the Davis decision. Members, as we all know, houselessness is a complex issue, which will require a multifaceted approach. And Bill 111 is limited to procedures to compassionately relocate people when necessary, including offering access to services and personal property storage. And so with that, we'll keep our testimony and discussion focused on this particular effort. Okay, so with that, we'll refer to Ms. Desjardins for her presentation, opening comments. Ms. Desjardins.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to first just do a quick review of the Sonia Davis v. Bisson decision. I don't know how much information you folks have received regarding the ins and outs of that, but I thought I would give you a brief overview of that and then move into how that decision, the attempts to address that decision in Bill 111 and some of the requirements of the decision versus some of the things in Bill 111 that aren't specifically addressed in the decision but are impacted by things like notice and storage of property. So what I would like to do is just go back to the beginning. And during the Victorino administration, there was a press release that was issued on September 1st of 2021, indicating that there was going to be plans to conduct an encampment removal at Amala Place This was done during COVID. The Amala Place encampment had built and had become complicated due to COVID. So where there was a decision by the administration to go ahead, issue that press release on September 1st, indicating that there was going to be a removal of that encampment. On September 14th, the administration distributed notices to houseless individuals present at Amala Place, as well as posted notices stating that they must vacate the area by September 20th. If you look at the Bisson decision, the Davis decision, pretty much the entire notice is set forth on page 5 of that opinion. There was one glaring thing that notice failed to provide, and that was any indication of who to contact to both challenge the removal, the actual encampment removal, and then no information on what would happen to the belongings that were removed from Amala Place. On September 17th, there was a press release, again released, stating that the cleanup would commence and take place between September 19th to the 24th. The actual encampment removal took place between September 20th and 24th. Prior to that, Mayor Victorino had met individually with some of the defendants in this case and had made representations that are contained in the decision about what his actions were going to be prior to the encampment removal. However, still no notice providing or indicating where houseless individuals could retrieve their personal belongings, how long they would be stored, or whether they would be destroyed. None of that was provided by the administration at that time. The notice was, however, okay in terms of what the administration planned to do with both abandoned vehicles. They would be stored for 30 days, or that derelict vehicles, which do not need under Maui County Code to be stored, but there was an indication, I think, from the notice that they may be stored for up to 30 days. The notice also provided phone numbers for folks to be able to claim those vehicles or to be able to make arrangements to have their belongings removed from those vehicles. So what ended up happening after the Amala Place removal was that 4 individuals sued the Victorino administration. 2 of those individuals were dismissed from the case because during the circuit court proceedings, it was determined that they had not actually lost any belongings. However, there were 2 remaining defendants, Sonia Davis and Jessica Lau. They both lost belongings during the encampment removal. Those belongings are listed in the Supreme Court decision and consist mostly of personal belongings such as tents, diapers, etc. So the matter went to the circuit court. Judge Hammond agreed with the plaintiffs who had belongings destroyed that they should have been given a contested case hearing to challenge the removal and to challenge the potential loss of property if it were, in fact, the intent of the administration to not store those belongings. The county then asked the court if it was okay if they could just go ahead and appeal the decision to the Intermediate Court of Appeals at that point, rather than wait until the case was fully decided, just to get an answer to that question about whether or not the county had, in fact, made a mistake by not providing in their notice the issue about storage of belongings. And the Intermediate Court of Appeals then had the case removed to the Hawaii State Supreme Court, which ultimately did hear the case and issued a decision on March 5th, 2024. So the essence of what the Hawaii Supreme Court held was that the county did erroneously destroy Davis and Lau's property without first providing them notice of the intent to do so and an opportunity to be heard. And that's just classic due process law. So what did the Hawaii Supreme Court say was in fact required in these situations? And in analyzing this, the Hawaii Supreme Court looked at a couple of very key decisions, one of which comes out of Los Angeles, which had very similar factual basis, the Levan decision. And essentially what the Hawaii Supreme Court said was required is that you must provide notice of upcoming encampment removal. You must provide notice of who to contact to challenge that action. You must inventory and temporarily store any property that's removed that isn't considered either a health or safety hazard. And then you also have to notify houseless individuals of where the property is being stored and what steps need to be taken in order to reclaim that property, and then also how long the county intends on storing that property. So that is essentially where we are at the end of the Davis decision. And then we turn to Bill 111, and during the time that the Davis decision was pending before the Hawaii Supreme Court, this bill was being circulated from its author, Gabe Johnson, and OCS to the various departments to try to get some input as to, what might be reasonable, what might be required, what might be necessary in order to protect the interests of the public. So Bill 111 has some very specific things in it which directly address the inconsistency and erroneous actions taken by the administration in the Davis decision. And one of those is 9.37050, which clearly says that you must post notice, including date and time range of the removal action, and where removed property will be stored, for how long, and then how persons may retrieve those belongings. The bill also has other requirements in it that are not specifically addressed by the Davis decision, but do provide guidance or would make it the law as to specifically how long that storage would take, when does notice have to be provided. Specifically, 9.37050C says that you need to provide somewhere between 45 days notice before commencing the removal and at least 50 days before the ending of the removal. You must provide this notice that's required, not only by the Davis decision, but by some federal law as well. Now, in terms of the need to provide 45 days notice, that is not required by the Supreme Court, but that is the what is currently in the ordinance before you, Bill 111. There is a case out of Honolulu, Occupy Honolulu, which is a federal case. And in that case, they provided as little as 24 hours notice. And the court did not determine that the notice had to be a specific time, only emphasizing again that it be done correctly. And we know now that correctly means providing notice not only of how to be able to object to the removal, but also to store the property. Bill 111 also says that final notice reiterating where belongings are stored must be affixed to tents, structures, or vehicles within 2 days before the removal action takes place. Right now, again, the law doesn't really say that that's a requirement, but that effectively gives yet another opportunity for folks to know that the action is about to take place. And then also Bill 111 provides that initial and final notices that were just described should be translated into, and it lists a variety of languages that are commonly spoken on Maui, and then says also any other language that would further the notice's purpose. Bill 111 also states that post-removal notice also should be affixed for a minimum of 10 days and provide, quote, where any personal property is being stored by the county and how to reclaim it. And again, the Davis decision really emphasizes the pre-deprivation notice, and that you must provide that notice of where belongings can be located, how to get them back, and then also who to call. 9.37100 sets out requirements specifically about storage of property, how it should occur, about inventorying property, what are the guidelines for folks to be able to show up and reclaim their property. And again, there are other ordinances across the United States that also deal with the storage of property, and they range, most of them look like they're about a 30-day storage requirement. Bill 111 is a 90-day storage requirement. So the takeaway from this decision is that There is no requirement imposed by the Hawaii Supreme Court for a contested case hearing prior to encampment removal, so long as there are notices in place that are done properly, that most definitely provide that belongings will be stored and for how long and where they can be picked up and who they can contact, and then also to provide for an opportunity for folks to be able to voice their objections or concerns about the encampment removal. Again, the Supreme Court does not provide any specific what it is that you need to do there. But I would assume that best practices would be to at least provide some kind of a forum for folks to be able to voice their concerns, and for the administration to explain to folks how this is going to proceed and what the parameters are going to be. So, Chair, that concludes my presentation of the Davis decision. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Mahalo, First Deputy Desjardins, for your presentation. Members, before we begin our discussion, we'll take testimony for WASSP 13. Oh, okay. Let's begin with public testimony. Oral testimony via phone or video conference will be accepted. Testifiers wanting to provide video or audio testimony should sign up in the chamber, join the online meeting via the Teams link, or call in to the phone number noted on today's agenda. For individuals wishing to testify via Teams, please raise your hand by clicking on the raise your hand button. For those calling in, please allow the prompts or follow the prompts via phone, *5 to raise and lower your hand, and *6 to mute and unmute. Staff will add names to the testifier list in the order testifiers sign up or raise your hands. For those on Teams, staff will lower your hand once your name is added. Staff will then enable your microphone and video and call the name you're logged in under, or the last 4 digits of your phone number when it's your time to testify. Written testimony is encouraged and can be submitted via the e-comment link at mauicounty.us/agendas. Oral testimony is limited to 3 minutes. And if you're still testifying beyond that time, I'll kindly ask that you complete your testimony. We ask that you state your full name and organization, but if you prefer to testify anonymously, staff will identify and refer to you as testifier and assign you a number. Once you're done testifying, or if you do not wish to testify, you can view the meeting on Akaku Channel 53, Facebook Live, or mauicounty.us/agendas. Again, mahalo for your cooperation in advance. The chair will be maintaining decorum, and I'll now proceed with oral testimony. Staff?
Chair, no one has signed up to testify. If anyone would like to testify, please come up to the podium. Oh.
I see J.C. Law.
Automatic. Aloha, kakahiaka.
Luna Omalu.
Aloha kako, aloha akaku. Aloha poakahi, luna ho'omolu sinetsi. And other council members that have taken the time to be here. Compassionate, that's what a word I heard. My upcountry representative, Yuki Lei Sugimura, I hope she watches this later. We had an emergency up in Kula. One of the water lines broke again. Hence the dirty T-shirt again. I apologize for that, Chair. And I don't know where the other chair people are, Nohe Uuhajins and Mr. Cook. They're probably working on something else. So I'm paraphrasing this. Jesus said, if someone takes your shirt, so if someone takes your coat and give them your shirt too, that's the best way that I can handle stuff when people take my, whatever, everybody's had stuff stolen from them. So instead of getting all mad and saying you want to kill somebody, Jesus had the right idea, and it makes everything like all nice and fluffy again. And I appreciate it. So when I was trying to think about this, I really didn't have enough time to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. But I was having like objections to the whole thing until you turn to the last page and it shows Gabe Johnson has authored this bill. And I felt better because I know he's trying to make everything good and not trying to hurt people. My own personal take on this, my kuleana is waste management and recycling. And I've seen the dump truck. I think everybody's seen all the dump trucks and all this stuff. They take everybody's stuff. They take shopping carts. They take all kinds of stuff. Recycle cans, high five stuff. This is worth money to us. And they're just taking it and putting it in the trunk. And then I don't see where it goes, but I'm assuming that they unload it at the landfill. So I'd like to see something in here for the county should make the utmost effort to at least take the high five stuff. Yeah. And so storing the property, I suggest at the nearest church because they all seem to have plenty of land and room, but they don't use it all the time. As a side note, there's a guy, we could use him as a test case. His name is Mike. He's laying on the sidewalk there at the Salvation Army in between the two churches. And that was swept to 5 years ago, so I imagine I don't see anybody else following his lead yet, but there might be some others. And he needs help. He could be our test case. Thank you for your time, and I'll reserve whatever I have left for the Hawaiians.
Mahalo, Mr. Law. Members, any questions for Mr. Law? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Chair, I see a testifier approaching the podium.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee, and to everyone who's listening out in the universe. My name is Lisa Darcy. I'm the founder of Share Your Mana. I had originally thought I would just come and listen since I have followed every piece of this very intimately for years. I want to just state that I appreciate Corporation Counsel Desjardins being here and clarifying some of the information. One of the pieces I want to bring to this committee and to anybody who is following this is there is an enormous amount of information that has still been left out. And some of that reflects that even before the press release that was mentioned earlier in the presentation, that the then mayor had promised the individuals at Amala Place a piece of land and that they would be relocated to that piece of land, and so they would be able to bring their items there. This has never again been brought forth from the administration or any of the, I come here continuously to try and fill in the blanks and to give everybody the full picture of how it's being organized, and yet it's consistently left out of the process by which we're going to move forward. And I will just keep coming hoping that you will integrate the work that Share Your Mana has done, because I think it'll make everyone's lives better. We have worked tirelessly to mitigate and minimize all of these conflicts. Share Your Mana has assisted in putting in hundreds of contested case forms, none of which have been honored by this process. And I want to also point out that on the forms, no contact information, Share Your Mana has worked to create forms for the county and for the agencies and for the individuals to help clarify the process, since this has never been acknowledged or put forward. When there's a notice, if Honolulu is providing 24 hours, we just want to remind people that if you're housed, that you get 45 days, and that it may not, because there aren't laws that protect people that are unhoused, that we think that it would be discrimination if you were to treat people differently who are unhoused with the same protections. Also remembering that Share Your Mana works with the majority of people who have diagnosed and undiagnosed disabilities, and there's never any accommodation that is provided for individuals, whether you have physical handicaps, whether you have emotional and or cognitive disabilities. We have never seen anybody or received any help. Share Your Mana has put in hundreds of calls to administration and to county council departments and agencies for collaboration, for support, to work in partnership together. Share Your Mana has been to dozens and dozens of sweeps where none of these are present, and the day of the sweep is when there is terror in people's lives, so they're really not going to be able to make good decisions at that time. I also just thank you for letting me share that we've just continued to make and support what the court is saying, what the county is trying to do in the absence of any leadership in this. And I really appreciate the time today, and I do hope that you recognize that this presentation was very short, and there are so many other pieces of this that aren't getting addressed to make these things work. So with all of the hundreds of documents I have to try and keep this moving forward, I do hope that somebody's listening. So mahalo.
Mahalo, Ms. Darcy. Any questions for Ms. Darcy? We have one from Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Ms. Darcy. Thank you for your testimony. I can only ask you clarifying questions, but one I would like to clarify is you said you worked with the administration to create some forms that you would prefer that they would hand out right before they come out. Can you send me the email or send this committee those forms? I'm curious of if you could share that with us.
Thank you. And I do want to respond to that by saying Share Your Mana and myself and many of our advisory committee members have reached out to the administration. They do not follow through. So we offer this assistance, but there has been no meeting. There hasn't been any reflection from the administration or from the county to actually adopt or utilize what we're proposing. Does that clarify it?
Did you want her to send it, Vice Chair, to us?
Sure.
I would prefer a meeting, yeah, if we could, because I could explain them as well. It's not just a piece of paper, it's a whole process, and that's an important piece of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mahalo. Thanks for asking a question. That was really exciting.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Mahalo.
Chair, that is everyone that has signed up to testify. If anyone in the audience or on Teams would like to testify, please come up to the mic and begin your testimony, or use the raise your hand function on Teams, and staff will unmute you. We'll provide a brief countdown. 3, 2, 1. Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any objections to closing oral testimony for WASSP 13 at this time?
No objections, Chair.
Okay, thank you, members. And written testimony will still be accepted if you want to send in those. Okay, let's move ahead, members. I'd like to open the floor for questions and comments, and we'll go ahead and start with Committee Vice Chair Johnson, the introducer of this bill, and maybe share his opening comments. Vice Chair Johnson.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. On a complex bill like this that we've been working on for quite some time, as you all know, we wanted to pass it around to the administration. We've had meetings with Lisa Darcy, Share Your Mana, Axel Beers, and my team. The rest of my team, we've all been working hard to kind of come up with making the bill better. So there's some amendments that I don't want to get into right now because it's not on the agenda, but basically we're trying to overall, just like some of our testifiers had said, is that, we want to treat folks fairly, making sure that the bill addresses folks who are with disabilities, making sure that it lines up with a longer time to give them notice. 45 days notice is like what was mentioned. We give people who are in houses if we evict them. Why not have a significant time like that? It takes time for folks to move out. Some of within the bill, there's some things about hazardous materials, and folks who are houseless cook with propane. That's just the facts of the matter. So how do we navigate that smartly? Of course, overall, I think some of the amendments really try to help understand the folks we're trying to help. They're traumatized. They've been through the system. The system's been cruel to them. It's not easy to navigate the system. So a lot of the amendments were really similar to kind of treating like human beings, just like anyone else, which was so important. There's the theory and there's the practice. So in theory, many of the folks at Amala Place were notified. Many of the folks had outreach, came and met with them. But in practice, maybe not so much. So in the bill, we're trying to make it so that outreach people have to go there right before and during. We're trying to include to make sure that the department is there during the day of the event, and all of those things. I think, if we're going to do the housing first model, and that means you house them first and then you clean up the stuff, then we need the housing, right? So the safe space parking is one kind of, again, narrow way to help folks. If you're going to have a place where they can park their car overnight and sleep, you could offer that to them before you just go and throw everything away, and then you get lawsuits on your hands and all the trauma that comes with that. So we don't want to keep re-traumatizing these people. I think... So I really appreciate that, Ms. Desjardins mentioned, what brought us here, and then now coming out to hammering out the details. How long is appropriate, and who should be there, and, where will they go, and is the place appropriate for them to go? So those are all the things that we want to hammer out. I think I leave this a lot to the body, so we can all come up to something that we can all agree with, that the administration has to enforce. So I heard the time, Chair, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Mahalo, Vice Chair Johnson, and mahalo for your continued outreach and your work on this bill. Next, we have Pro Tem Kama for your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So I think there's just one thing that I wanted to talk about in the bill. I had it, and then I read other parts of the bill, and then I lost. Okay, here. On page 4, at least it's on my page 4, that was printed. And it's under actually definitions. And it says, Pu'uhonua means a temporary place of refuge, sanctuary, and asylum designated by the county, including a safe place where temporary shelter and basic necessities are provided, including showers, bathrooms, garbage removal, animal care, and safe storage of personal property and vehicles. Pu'uhonua may be staffed with relevant human services, including, and it just goes on and on. And I think the only concern I had is the word pu'uhonua, as we've used in other spaces, the word aloha we've used in other spaces, and Mamaloha Kanawai we've used in different spaces. And I think sometimes we overuse these Hawaiian words to the point that they don't have the essence or the meaning that it was totally intended for. And therefore, I don't like the use of putting certain Hawaiian words into spaces that I kind of believe they don't belong. I mean, people in Hawaii, some of our people believe the Kingdom of Hawaii still exists. If it still exists, we still have our pu'uhonuas on every island. The confusion of having pu'uhonua defined in this particular legislation, and knowing and understanding that the kingdom exists and our pu'uhonuas are still alive, creates confusion for what that actually means. And I want to keep the language pure, and I want to keep things clear and separate. So I would really like if we didn't have to use the word pu'uhonua in this legislation or any other legislation, and I would welcome the comments from my other members. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo.
Chair, may I respond real quick?
Go ahead, Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Kama. I don't want to take too much time on this, but you're exactly right. And the administration changed it to Calhales, and then we went back to let's just make it safe space. So I totally hear where you're coming from, Councilmember Kama. You make great points. So safe space is the language that we determined to land on. So just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, next, members, we have Chair Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Do we have the administration on the line so we can hear their comments?
We didn't invite any of the administration, Chair. We do have.
What was your plan? On this piece of legislation?
Yeah, we didn't have any legislative action planned for today. We're still working on the bill, and it was just to keep it in the WASSP committee, Chair.
Oh, okay. So you probably won't get to this until after budget?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
I have no questions.
Thanks, Chair Lee. Next, we have Member Polton, followed by Member Rollins Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of things. I was wondering, the Sonia Davis presentation at the start, is there any written component for that for us before we take up the legislation again next time, like the facts or like bullet points or something?
Ms. Desjardins?
Thank you. I can definitely convert my notes into something and send it to you folks. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the other question I had was, I don't think that human concerns, which has houselessness under their purview because they have a homeless division, it's not super clear because I don't believe the homeless division does the cleanups. If we could also get the breakdown of that, because Director Tsuhako has previously said, a lot of times they get blamed for sweeps, but they're not the ones initiating them or calling for them. So if we could have a clarification of the interaction when there is a cleanup and how it relates to the homeless division, because I think from Amala and other things, it wasn't necessarily the Department of Human Concerns Homeless Division that heads that up. If we can get clarification on that. And then I did hear the mayor in his state of the county address was saying that he was gonna be, part of his upcoming plans was safe places to park and street medicine, water, and that kind of things. I would like to know more about that. We have a executive ordered parking lot in the west side that's a parking lot, and it's been very difficult to try and get more information. I have been talking with Tia Hartsock on the Office of Wellness from the governor about rewriting the EO for a safe place to park, but it doesn't seem like the Department of Human Concerns is on board with that. And I know that there was a feasibility study done maybe 16 or 20 years ago on that with specifically affordable housing in mind. Maybe it's time to do another feasibility study because a lot happens in 16 to 20 years. And if it's not okay for brick and mortar, would it be okay for a safe parking place for the west side? And, I believe the Salvation Army has hygiene and commercial kitchen trailers that they could bring up, so it might not even need infrastructure. The parking blacktop is there on half of the 4 acres, so I don't know what is the holdup. It's been 16, 20 years, so thank you. I heard the bell.
Okay, and just to respond, I think from what we can follow up with the administration that an RFP will be going out for those safe spaces and for the street medicine as well as the water.
I know, I think what they had been saying was it would be helpful if the nonprofit or the agency had their own land, but if the county has access to free parking lot, that's not being, I mean, it's being used somehow, but not legally, because I can submit the letter that I wrote to Director Tuhako to this committee and her response that nobody has authorization to park there, but there's a lot of people parking there and it's chained in, and she didn't know who operated the chain or locked it. And if the property is under county jurisdiction, like, this seems really shady. I've heard from several people that she made, somebody in the county made arrangements with the apartment below, and she said it wasn't her. So I think we should find out what's going on to this land that's under our jurisdiction. It could be a good option, but you know, why does the RFP person have to have property, which is a big obstacle to overcome when the county has access to this parking lot that random other people are using and chaining up? It seems like we should at least see what's going on with these assets and approach it with like a unified front, kind of.
Okay, thank you. Staff, did we get that? Okay, mahalo, Member Paulton. Before we go to Member Rollins Fernandez, we do see a lot of people raising their hands. We've closed public testimony at this time, but you can still go ahead and send in your testimony at the WASSP committee, mauicounty.us. Okay, Member Rollins Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. I mahalo to everyone for being with us today. I guess I just wanted clarification, Chair, on your intention with today's meeting. Like, I want to make sure that whatever your goal was for this meeting, that we try to achieve that. So direction from you, please.
Yeah, thank you, Member Rollins Fernandez. And basically, there has been ongoing talks with, it sounds like, Member Johnson and some of the homeless advocates and outreach. So he's going to have some amendments. Probably after budget, we'll bring this back up. But we had to meet the 90-day timeline for 15A. We had to hold this special meeting to keep it in the WASSP committee.
Okay, so that's the sole purpose, just to satisfy that requirement.
Correct.
All right, I will propose an amendment to that so that we don't have to do this again.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And we can schedule that when we're ready, we're ready to actually take action on legislation. Mahalo, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Member Rollins Fernandez. Members, any other questions for any of our resources? And again, we have a lot, I see in the audience some of the administration homeless program, so everyone's on this meeting listening in, so I appreciate everyone joining in. We have another question from Pro Tem Kama.
Thank you, Chair. So I just wanted to ask Corp Counsel, how does the county provide that contested case hearing to the unsheltered?
Chair.
Ms. Desjardins.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. So the decision talks quite a bit about when a contested case hearing is required, and also makes the point of saying that they are not deciding whether a contested case is required or not, so long as we follow the law. And that is, the highlight of that is the property, storing property, which is where the administration fell short. So we do receive these contested case requests forms. We catalog them. We're not under any obligation to respond to them because the administration, at this point going forward, after this decision came out, has no intention of moving on anything without following the law. And my department works very closely with the administration to make sure that we provide a proper forum for folks to be able to raise their concerns and objections to a removal, as well as make sure that their stored property is available to them and to be very clear what the law is. So that's what we're trying to do. So at this point, there is no requirement for contested case. That doesn't apply to the Davis decision. That matter is still pending and may in fact result in a contested case down the road, but we're working at options on that. I hope that answers your question. Thank you for the question.
It does. So it just leads me to think that this is the intent, and that is for sure. So how do you ensure that other administrations follow through and follow up so that we don't get any hiccups in 5 or 10 years from today, that we hopefully we don't have the problem, but I think we still will. But how is it that we are going to ensure that we'll continue to follow the law with these 3 points?
Thank you for the question. Hire loud, obnoxious corporation counsels who constantly harass the administration. Naomi's clapping back there, by the way. I just want you to know that. No, I think Bill 11 is in the right direction. Our department supports the idea of there being a storage of property ordinance in place similar to what City and County of Honolulu has, because the removal of property isn't just through encampment removals. The county often deals with property that's just simply abandoned on county space. So our department favors some type of ordinance that doesn't put this just under the right to shelter bill, but is its own standalone. So we're working on that, but definitely, codification does make sure that people are aware of it. But I think at this point, when it becomes law like this, you can't ignore it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo Pro Tem Kama. Chair would also like to recognize Member Cook, if he's online. Aloha and good morning.
Aloha and good morning, Chair and fellow council members. I'm in my office. I just arrived. Thank you. Sorry for my lateness. Didn't want to come down and disturb the floor, so I'm in my office with my awesome staff next door. There's nobody currently in the Kihei office for testimony.
And Member Cook, we're just at the taking any questions for First Deputy Desjardins on Bill 111. If you had any particular questions for her, we'll take it.
Not right now. I will listen, and thank you for being patient with me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. I see Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. So of course, the original bill, Bill 111, was worked on with our corporation council. They really helped craft this legislation. How important is that? This is from Ms. Desjardins. How important it is for us to give the departments a framework on how we do this, because not just the pitfalls, but the importance of not just the legal pitfalls, but the importance of doing this with some type of compassion. Ms. Desjardins.
Thank you for the question. I like guidance. I like it when the law is real clear and everybody's clear on what it is. It's one thing for the lawyers to read the law and understand it. It's another thing to interpret it and put it out there in a way that works for the entire county, because I think this issue touches all departments. But I don't, as far as policy, that's completely on you folks, and you have spent enough time, I think, with this bill and listening to the administration to understand, what their concerns are in terms of being able to get this product out onto the streets, whatever you folks put together. So the only thing that I from my viewpoint that I see, is to make sure it's something that the administration can handle, and to get out there to address both the houseless crisis as well as the health and safety concerns of individuals who call in on a daily basis to the administration asking, what are you folks doing about the houseless problem?
Right.
From both sides of the fence, yeah. Thank you.
And Ms. Desjardins, did your department receive the Echo Northwest study that was recently produced about the homelessness issue in Maui County?
Thank you for the question. When you say recently, how recent are you talking about?
Oh, a month or two, I think, maybe 3 months. It is really recent. It's from Echo Northwest.
I have not seen that.
So, Chair, I like to, maybe we could send it to Corporation Council, because they have some really good suggestions in there, and we want to make sure we're doing everything legal. But I think it was kind of a reckoning of how jammed up our system is. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that recommendation, Vice Chair. Member Bolton.
Thank you, Chair. For Corp Council, I also wanted to know if you look at the RFP for the Eco Northwest and the product that they delivered, if it was in alignment, because I believe the RFP was for a strategic plan. And in the Eco Northwest studies, it said that they couldn't come up with a strategic plan because of the lack of cooperation and collaboration between all the entities. And so then if we paid $240,000 for a strategic plan and we got something else, is that, that seems kind of like fraud or something?
Thank you. Normally, our department does not review RFPs as a matter of course. However, sometimes...
I'm not sure if the RFP is the right word. It could have been a bid, or I'm not sure.
Anything that solicits a study or something like that, we would get involved if a department, for example, said, hey, would you check this out and make sure it complies, if there was, say, a law involved. So we don't normally see those. But we have seen them, and I can check to see if anybody in our department did review it ahead of time, but I'm going to suspect that they did not, unless the department felt there was a legal need for us to look at it.
Okay, because I guess for me, I feel kind of gypped if we asked for something and if they're straight up and they can't deliver it, but they delivered something, then why are we paying like full price for not what we asked for?
Chair. So once that occurs, if somebody feels that didn't hit the mark, for example, somebody put a bid in, we oftentimes will look at a bid and say, are they able to perform on a contract or something? So we can take a look at that and see if that was a concern. Was it through the Department of Human Services that was?
I kind of don't know.
Was it? Okay, I'll follow up on that and let you know.
Okay. And then, I guess too, it's not clear if it's expected that the Department of Human Concerns be the lead and be the one to take that role of cooperation and collaboration between all the entities, or if it's supposed to be the administration, or, I imagine since we're the ones who had put out the bid request or whatever you call it, that the outcome of it, if that's what they're saying, there needs to be more cooperation and collaboration between all of the entities. Like, who is the entity that they're recommending be that leader? Is it the county? Because we put out the request for a proposal or whatever you call it? It wasn't clear.
Thank you. So I haven't seen the report, so this is news to me. I can follow up in terms of what I think the report suggested, but it sounds more like that might be an administration question that you have about, just structurally who's in charge of taking the lead on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd hate for our $240,000 to just sit on the shelf,
Thank you, Member Bolton. And it looks like locating the contract that would outline the scope of work. If we could locate that contract. Thank you, staff. Any other questions from the members? Again, we just wanted to mahalo everybody for this special meeting and for the discussion. We anticipate more work, more discussions with the community. Mahalo for joining us. Staff, anything else before we adjourn this special meeting?
Oh, Chair.
One more question. Go ahead, Member Paulton.
Just wondering if, before we meet again on this, if we can get an update on that safe parking places, if an RFP has been put out, or if any entity has been selected, or, it was mentioned in the state of the county, and now we're discussing this bill. If we can get any update from the administration as to how that's moving along and maybe how it would interact with this bill.
And I understand, Lahaina is also looking for a potential safe space out there as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if not, if we can get any RFP related to the overnight safe parking or.
Okay, staff, can we follow up with the department? Okay.
And Member Rollins has her hand up.
Member Rollins Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. Mahalo, Member Bolton. Okay, so the Eco Northwest report, the RFP is 22-23/P-67 for Homeless Strategic Plan, and it was awarded to Eco Northwest. So if we could get the original RFP so we can see what the scope of work was, and then the agreement that was signed so we can see if they complied with the contract, that they agreed to deliver the deliverables. We can see all the deliverables. And obviously this would be like a separate agenda item. And then if we can invite the representatives of Eco Northwest to do that presentation, and then the Human Concerns Department to be able to answer some of the questions regarding, whether they delivered, they complied with the contract as written.
Okay, mahalo for that recommendation, staff. Can we go ahead and add the Eco Northwest report to our calendar? Thank you.
Mahalo.
Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. And before you adjourn, I appreciate this discussion. I wanted to get the amended bill beforehand, but we still had some cooking to do. Still got to bake the pie first. But I know that we have, when we come back after budget, we should have an amended bill. And specifically, I know Councilmember Kama was talking about some of the amendments that she would prefer. We're going to try to put all those things in there, and then we can add that discussion. I really think it is important to have that the parking shelter. It's a very good, timely discussion. So that, I think, just let the members know we're going to have an amended bill coming before you after budget. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, mahalo, Vice Chair Johnson, for that additional work. Member Paulton, you had.
Oh, just a clarification question. Are we anticipating that we would have that amended bill posted the next time that this item comes up?
I know we wanted to have those discussions possibly with the department, so I don't know how that process would, maybe Vice Chair Johnson,
Yes, Chair.
You've worked closely with the administration.
Certainly want to post it. I want the administration to give some feedback. Certainly want to post an amended version so our members can look at it and then put your thumb on the scale and have what you guys concern about it. I don't think I'm going to have. There's going to be a point where the administration and I disagree with it, and that's just fine, because I'm going to give it to you guys and say, here's our things that we agree on, here's the things we don't agree on. What say you, council members? And that's really how I think is a pretty good process. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions before we adjourn? Staff, anything else before we adjourn this special meeting?
Just your recommendation, Chair.
Okay, any objections to deferring this item, members?
No objections.
Okay, thank you. With that, and again, Mahalo for carving out some time on your Monday morning for this special meeting, and the WASSP committee meeting of Monday, March 24th. It's now 10:05, is now adjourned. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Chair.